So Team Biden's hell-bent on its pursuit of a historic green agenda, no matter what the cost, even if that means misspending your tax dollars. And it's all happening through the EPA with money that originated from something misnamed the Inflation Reduction Act. Remember that?
Good point there. Here's just one example. Fordham University was chosen as a grant maker to distribute $50 million in collaboration with the New York Immigration Coalition and the New Jersey Alliance for Immigrant Justice. So the two groups have a well-documented history of opposing immigration laws, supporting bills that would prevent local law enforcement with working with ICE, and advocating for bans on local government contract renewals with the agency.
Joining us now, former Trump administration EPA Chief of Staff, Mandy Gunasekara. Mandy, great to see you again. Thanks for being here. So what on earth does the elimination of ICE, whether or not it's good or bad, frankly, I think it'd be horrible for the nation, but what does that have to do with either the EPA or the Inflation Reduction Act?
It has nothing to do with either. And unfortunately, this administration doesn't care to ask that question or to get an actual answer. And it goes to show you that a lot of this grant-making authority, this expanded grant-making authority at EPA to the tune of $3 billion has been used to pad up and prop up the DNC and their front groups, like the two that you mentioned. And there's other groups that are using EPA dollars to register illegals to vote in the next election. This has nothing to do with the environment. And I'll tell you, I've been to the border. I went there during the Trump administration, and there are legitimate environmental issues going on down there. But it has to do with the fact that we don't have a robust enough border, that immigrants are going through sensitive ecosystems and destroying them, leaving trash in their wake. And then also there's poor water infrastructure on the Mexican side of the border, and that is leaching into the U.S. side, where I saw U.S. Customs agents having to go through water and their shoes would literally melt because of the chemicals that are going into the water. So there's legitimate issues, but what the EPA grant dollars are actually funding is an absolute misuse of taxpayer dollars and flies in the face of any notion of environmental protection.
And that's what I take issue with the most. You point out, David, the Inflation Reduction Act is supposed to help this country under this crippling impact of inflation caused under President Biden. Yet you're taking all of this money, spending on things that aren't really going to help inflation at all, and lying basically to the American taxpayer as you're doing it. So, I mean, in many ways right now, especially when money is tight for so many families, that's insulting, Mandy.
Yeah, absolutely. And this administration, they've perfected taking good ideas or things that people genuinely care about and then corrupting them for the benefit of the left. And they will use the guise of climate action or environmental improvements or climate justice and environmental justice. And then they really use it just to expand their political reach or expand their desired control, which is what the Green New Deal really is all about. And it's so disrespectful to the taxpayer. And it really is something that the voters will have a chance to change come this November.
And, you know, you scratch any one of these spending programs, whether it's the Inflation Reduction Act, these EV chargers that they have, where you've spent $7 billion. And we only have seven EV chargers. We're supposed to have 500,000. The reason being that there are these equity requirements. So the equity requirements that the Transportation Department now has are preventing them from planting more of these EV chargers. So these woke requirements are eating their own. It's even hurting their own goals, as misguided as those may be.
You see that time and again. You also see it with their goal in shutting out the mineral development of our natural resources across this country. When they shut that down, it makes it harder for this expanded future of electrification to actually occur. But David and Jackie, you're bringing up questions that there's actually an office at the EPA. There's an Office of Inspector General that is charged with investigating instances of waste, fraud, or abuse. So to me, what Senator Capito, I know that her team has been working to expose this. This is right for that type of oversight. One, because it's the mission of that office, but two, it's what the taxpayers deserve.
Mandy, in just the short time we have left, speaking of this this extreme kind of stuff. The state of Colorado urging residents not to drive their cars for a 24-hour period beginning last night, ending around 4 p.m. today. They say it's to honor the state's Ozone Action Day in an effort to combat poor air quality. Your reaction?
Yeah, certainly. Well, at least it's voluntary right now. But the problem with these voluntary guidelines is soon they will be mandatory. And Colorado has had problems complying with certain air quality standards. But EPA has continued to ratchet down these standards now to the point where areas can never come into compliance because the standard is lower than naturally occurring ozone. And so it creates a major problem for areas because when you're out of compliance, it establishes higher permitting requirements, and it makes it harder to integrate the latest and greatest efficiencies that could actually reduce pollution.
Makes it harder and more expensive for everybody.
Everyone,
Mandy, great
yeah.
to see you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.